Get your day started the right way with Good Day Tampa Bay.
Right now at 9, tracking Hurricane Milton. We're watching the storm right alongside you as it closes in on Florida. And we have the latest on everything from evacuations to closures.
And good Tuesday morning, everybody. I'm Laura Moody.
And I'm Russell Rhodes. We just learned that President Biden will be providing an update on Milton at 10:15 this morning, and we will bring that to you live as it happens. Hey, Dave.
Hey, top of the morning to you. I want you to look at the last few frames of the satellite picture we're about to put up right now, because at the beginning of it, you have a hard time seeing where the eye is because it was replacing itself at an eye wall replacement cycle last night. But notice toward the end of this satellite loop, you're getting that eye back. It's going to start to clear itself out, and it looks like the intensification process will resume because an eye wall replacement cycle is a weakening process, typically knocking it down a category or so, but then it may regain some of that strength. There will be fluctuations in this strength until just before landfall, and then you're going to start to see the storm weaken due to the wind shear that's going to impact it. Right now, as of 8 o'clock, 145 mile per hour winds. It's 545 miles southwest of Tampa. East-northeast movement at about 12 miles per hour. There's your forecast track. It just gets skinnier and skinnier as we get closer and closer to this landfall, which does look like it's going to be just a little bit later. If this is the first time you've kind of seen this track this morning, look at the time of landfall, which is right around, let's say, between midnight and 2 a.m. on Thursday. So it's about 4 or 5 hours later than it was before. That's really the only difference. It's still going to come on shore as a major hurricane, as a Category 3 hurricane with winds of 125 miles per hour. The computer models are even more tightly clustered than the actual forecast track is. Look, they're even so this is coming into Central Florida, folks. For those of you waking up thinking maybe it's taking a turn, well, listen, this is going to be a problem anywhere from Hernando County or Citrus County all the way down through Sarasota County, getting the worst of it. One little change this morning, hurricane warnings are now posted for the east coast of our state. This is going to move right across the state overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. The one most difficult forecast, which we don't have that answer to right now, is exactly where does it make landfall, because on and south of where it makes landfall, looking at that potential for a 10 to 15 foot storm surge. Rainfall, 5 to 10 inches. Wind gusts along the coast up to 100 miles per hour. And where it makes landfall, that 10 to 15 foot storm surge. So that's all set in stone. What we're looking at is, again, for this to be late tomorrow night, Jen, and then very early on Thursday morning. When the sun comes up on Thursday morning, it's moving out quickly, okay?
And if you haven't already, now is the time to leave, and we are checking on evacuation routes. Rush hour drive really isn't a thing this morning. Lighter than normal traffic on the usual roads, like westbound along I-4, for instance. You're not seeing any traffic to the right of your screen. What you are seeing, the volume on the eastbound side along I-4 near County Road 532 as drivers leave the Tampa Bay area using I-4 eastbound. Now, we were tracking very heavy traffic along 75 since 4 a.m. this morning as drivers were exiting out of Tampa Bay using northbound 75. I guess most people got an early start because we're not seeing any slow-moving traffic there. Live look outside along the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It's open, but keep in mind, once sustained winds hit 40 miles per hour, that's when the bridges will shut down. Emergency shoulder use has been activated. That means you can use the emergency shoulder eastbound along I-4 from I-75 to Champions Gate. You can also do it along northbound I-75 from I-4 to I-10. And keep in mind that all tolls have been suspended for the next week.
We urge you to execute your plan now. Let's prepare for the worst, and let's pray that we get a weakening and hope for the least amount of damage as possible, but we must be prepared for a major, major impact to the west coast of Florida.
Governor Ron DeSantis making it very clear this morning, Hurricane Milton will be devastating to Florida, and residents need to put their plans into motion now.
Mandatory evacuation orders are in effect now for people up and down our coast. For Hillsborough County, that's zones A and B, and all mobile or manufactured homes. In Pinellas County, it's zones A, B, and C. In Manatee County, zones A, B, and C and mobile homes are all under mandatory evacuation order. That means manufactured homes as well. In Sarasota County, people in zones A and B, and in mobile homes, manufactured housing, and houseboats, you have been ordered to evacuate. And in Pasco County, zones A, B, C, mobile homes and those low-lying flood-prone areas have been ordered to evacuate. Hernando County residents west of US 19, that includes zones A, B, and C, they've been ordered to leave as well. And then in Citrus County, mandatory evacuations are in effect for mobile and manufactured homes and Zone A. All of this information, as well as information for inland counties, is crawling along the bottom of the screen. And we have an update from Hillsborough and Pinellas County schools as well. Both districts will remain closed through Friday. Right now, some sites are being used as shelters. And with that in mind, as well as the potential impact Milton could have, officials say that it's best to remain closed for the week. And with those emergency evacuation orders comes fuel in high demand as residents hit the interstate.
The camera was rolling just a few minutes ago in South Bradenton as drivers lined up to top off their tanks while there's still some supply. At last check, Gas Buddy showed about 18 stations within a 3-mile radius that still had regular unleaded. However, our crew found that is not always accurate. Some stations listed as having gas were already out. At this Walmart Supercenter, the majority of folks we talked with said they are not planning to evacuate. Many are outside the evacuation zone, planning to ride out the storm, but they're unsure when they'll get another chance to fill up.
I think the storm we just had, is scaring everybody, and stuff. People are getting prepared a lot more, putting shutters up and all that stuff. So in our neighborhood, they're serious about the storm.
Well, to see where gas is available in your area, check the Gas Buddy app. By stations that have gas, there's an icon you can tap. But as we mentioned, you should not take these results. You should take the results with a grain of salt. It's important to remember that unlike Helene, Hurricane Milton will be felt by people living inland as well, which is why Polk County is ramping up preparations. Its Emergency Operations Center is warning residents about localized flooding, strong winds that can damage homes, and downed power lines and trees that could block roads. Widespread power outages are expected for days. Lakeland Electric says crews are ready to go once it's safe. And this, Tampa International is now officially closed for the storm.
Other local airports will close today as well. PIE in Clearwater plans to close after its last flights today. Sarasota International will close at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And Orlando International will close at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And as vacationers and locals alike rush to evacuate, we met one woman who's been working nonstop to help University of Tampa students get out of the path of the storm. Many are from out of the state, and as you can imagine, their parents are anxious.
When the university announced that they were canceling classes and had a possibility of evacuating, I probably got 300-400 texts in a row and calls and messages. We had several kids on our Southwest flights last night that it was very questionable as to if they were going to be able to make it out. And that was raising some concerns because if it was canceled, they'd have to go back to the campus, and the campus is closed as of 6 a.m. this morning. So thankfully that all worked out.
Now, TPA will reopen as soon as it is safe to do so after a damage assessment. So be sure to contact your airline for any updates. Wait, stay with us. Still to come this morning, we're going to check in with Sheriff Chris Nacco. His deputies were busy with rescues during Hurricane Helene.
And we're going to talk to him about how they're preparing for this storm. And we'll be right back.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Well, Miss Piggy is back to work, flying into Milton. NOAA sent their hurricane hunters out to collect data on Milton aboard an aircraft named after the iconic Muppet. Pilots dropped about 15 collection devices into the hurricane to help improve forecasts and support hurricane research. You were saying last week that what these hurricane hunters do is invaluable in helping you get your job done.
1,000%. Without the information they get, these computer models would not be as accurate as they are, because they go in and they get everything right in the core, in the middle of the storm, which we can then input that data into the computer models, and it gives you a better forecast. So, I mean, if we could find a way for them not to have to go in there, maybe in the future you could get big drones to do it, but right now, without what they do, we wouldn't have as great or accurate as a forecast, and it would cost lives. Yeah. So that's why I like that. Let's get into, I like the fact that they're helping us. So you see the size of the storm getting a little bit larger now. So overnight, a little pinhole eye that we had just completely fell apart in what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. they're very common in major hurricanes. It's a weakening process, but what it does is it weakens the core of the storm, but it transmits the energy, or it distributes it out to the rest of the storm. So ultimately what the Hurricane Center is saying, like right now, tropical storm force winds go out 100 miles from the center of the storm. By the time it makes landfall, it'll be closer to 200 miles. So as the storm starts to weaken, its energy or its winds don't just go away. It just transfers the energy into making the wind field a little bit larger. So there's the structure and the core of the storm. Wouldn't be surprised to see this go right back up to being a Category 5 storm. Now, it is a full with winds of 145 miles per hour, which is strong enough. But if you watch the forecast for this, the very first forecast point, the Hurricane Center brings it right back up to a Category 5 storm. So if that happens at 11 o'clock or it happens at 2 o'clock and you hear that, don't be surprised if that's expected to happen. From there, then it's expected to start its decrease. And by tomorrow morning, it'll start to very slowly begin to weaken. And by the point of landfall, at the forecast at this point is a Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. Now, of course, the one big question that nobody can answer again this morning is the exact landfall, because that will make the difference as to who gets the strongest storm surge. I will tell you, if you look at the cone, which is interesting, the computer models are even more tightly clustered than the cone is. Yeah, you can see them just all squeezing together. So that's where this storm is coming. 30 miles north of Tampa, 30 miles south of Tampa. There's your range, folks, and we'll continue to narrow it down from there. Hurricane warnings go from the west coast of the state to the east coast of the state because it's going to move right across and eventually out to sea. But when did the tropical storm force winds get here? Let me turn it over to Valerie for more on that.
Thanks, Dave. So yeah, here we're looking at the general kind of wind field that's around Milton, where we have this yellow color here. That's where our tropical storm force winds extend out. And then as we get closer to the center, we've got this red color here and this orange color, which puts us more in that hurricane force condition. So look at how this wind field changes here as this storm continues on its initially eastward track and then curves to the north and east. Look at how much bigger it gets. That's what Dave was just talking about. We do expect it to weaken, but as it does so, the wind field is going to spread out, possibly even double the size of that. So while there is good news about the general weakening trend, we still expect basically those winds to extend out a little bit further from the storm center. So you think about more of the coastline that is going to be feeling the impacts from the storm surge. So as far as the timing, this puts us here right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. So it's really right after the noon time frame. I think that's when we start to feel more of these tropical storm winds start to spread into the area. And so from there into the evening hours and early Thursday morning, that's when the height of all of these hurricane force winds will spread into the area. And it is going to be an impact for a lot of our inland spots. You look at the wind threat, this bright pink color here, this is where the worst of the winds are expected, up to 110 miles per hour. Keep in mind where that landfall occurs, we're going to have a very isolated area around the core that just gets these devastating 100-mile-per-hour plus winds. But then even into parts of Polk County, DeSoto, Highlands, our inland spots in this red color here, that's where we're talking 75 to up to 110-mile-per-hour winds, and even those tropical storm conditions extending across the East Coast from Melbourne down to West Palm Beach. So these winds are going to impact a lot of the state. And as we look at the power outage index, this kind of generally shows us the time frame that we're looking at the potential for outages to start. So as we get through the late afternoon time frame, we start to see these rain bands moving through, the potential for some of those damaging winds to start to already cause some outages. But look at how this map changes as I play this out through Wednesday night and on into Thursday morning. We see more of these areas spread in. This is 11 o'clock Wednesday night. So that late night time frame where we likely start to see the worst of the power outages ramping up. And so that's kind of the time frame we're talking about. Impact-wise, gusts up to 100 miles per hour for the Bay Area, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, rainfall 5 to 10 inches. Citrus, Pasco, Hernando, gusts up to 80, storm surge 5 to 10 feet, and some high rainfall totals, possibly up to a foot in some areas. We're talking gusts up to 70 miles per hour for our inland areas, 4 to 8 inches of rain. Manatee, Sarasota County, the potential for up to 15 feet of storm surge. Wind gusts up in that 100, 110 mile per hour range as well.
Really paints a picture. All right, Val, thank you. Well, with Milton's path in the air, really, our local officials are hoping for the best, but they are also preparing for the worst. And you've heard Dave say this includes life-threatening storm surge. Let's get over to Sheriff Chris Snocko with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, I have to say it is good to see you. You are always such a steady force. Good morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, I know there are some business things that you want to get to. We're going to do that in just a minute, but I want to start out by asking how your deputies are doing and how your plans for Milton are different from what they were with Helene.
Yeah, first off, we want to thank our Lord Jesus Christ, looking over us, our community, our members and their families, and get us through this storm. You know, for us, you know, we're prepared, we're getting ready, we're working our supply chains also with the power companies, with gas companies, being prepared as the storm pushes forward. And so, you know, for our deputies, they're ramping up, you know, their families too. So making sure the families are taken care of, making sure that prepared wise to go out there. One of the things that's unique, we're very blessed is we're now partnering with Pineapple Express. So Scott Mann is a retired special operations officer in Special Forces. And so with that group, they're going to be coming down, partnering with us, because, you know, we are expecting that big storm surge again. Hopefully it's not as bad as it was last time, but, you know, we need those resources. But the big thing is coordination. And so, you know, whether volunteers come in from different areas, whether it's law enforcement organizations, it's about coordinating those efforts so that they're not just pushing on their own, is that they're pushing out with us in fire rescue for search and rescue.
This is unbelievable. We understand that the storm surge will be much more significant than Helene. Of course, we're hoping that won't be the case. All right, let's get to something that that's important for you. You guys have a job to do that isn't emergency rescue. You're also dealing with crime before the storm.
Well, yeah, you know, 100%. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, we're warning people right now, please evacuate, get out of here if you can, because the risks or dangers that are going on. The other part too is we're telling people, you know, tell everybody, your loved ones, where you are consistently, because what we don't want is the welfare checks. And I'll get to that point in a second about the welfare checks. The third thing is we're warning everybody right now and telling them, when you do evacuate and you make that correct decision to get out of the flood zone and evacuation zone, please don't come back right away. You know, give all of us time, the first responders, the gas companies, electric companies, give them time to respond back. But it goes back to that second point. I appreciate Laurie mentioning that, because the point is the fact that the welfare checks, where we have to respond because we're looking for people. So if you tell your loved ones where you are, that's great. I can tell you crime is still going on. We still have violent crime. We're still dealing with domestic violence. I just saw the call screen. We're holding calls right now. Yesterday, we just arrested an illegal immigrant for sexual battery in our community. And so it's one of those things that, you know, crime is still going on. Crime is still happening. People are still calling us for calls for service. Those things that we do on a daily basis do not stop as we're preparing for the storm. So it's one of those things that, you know, this is why public safety is so critical during this time, is that one is the storm surge, we're preparing for the hurricane, but also we're doing our daily duties out there. And then the other thing for Pasco County is we're dealing with a lot of traffic, you know, whether it's coming through 75, whether it's, you know, tens of thousands of people leaving Pinellas County, they're coming into our county. So we're dealing with traffic also.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. We got to leave it there. I'm sure we'll be talking to you as we move forward over the next 24 or 36 hours. But in the meantime, you guys stay safe, and thank you again for everything you're doing.
Thank you. God bless you all, too.
God bless you. All right, before we go to break, remember Fox 13 continues our storm coverage, complete coverage online on Hurricane Milton, even when you're away from the TV. We'll share updates on evacuations, closures, sandbag sites, and the storm's latest track. It's all on our website at fox13news.com. And remember, if you lose power, you can download our Fox Local app and watch us on your phone. We'll be right back.
The star of Abbott Elementary, Quinta Brunson, and American Sports Stories, Josh Rivera.
Kelly and Mark, today at 10 on Fox 13. Charlie's World is sponsored by Westfall Roofing.
Better value, more selection, and peace of mind. Westfall Roofing, the roofer you can count on.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Welcome back. For our coastline, the big concern is going to be storm surge. Inland, the worry is going to be wind, and that could lead to a major extended power outages. Officials say it's almost a guarantee at this point, and they're getting ready for it. Let's get to Charlie Belcher. He's checking out the brains over at Duke Energy this morning. Hey, good morning.
That's right. You know, and Russell, there's so many unknowns here, right? Like where exactly and what exactly is going to happen. But it is guaranteed. I'll just say it. It is guaranteed there will be widespread power outages. That's going to happen for it. And they're also getting a lot of help, sometimes from far away. Melissa Satius is the president of Duke Energy Florida, and that help is coming as it always does, as then we will always provide if it's not us getting hit.
Yes, in this industry, I think we're always paying it forward. And what I mean by that is that we have mutual aid agreements with utilities, certainly around the state, the Southeast. But Duke Energy Florida, we will go to Colorado like we did with Helene to bring in resources. So we will cast a very wide net to get the resources that we need. We use weather modeling to help us determine the number of resources that we need to bring to Florida ahead of the storm, stage them in a safe place where then we can deploy them into base camps for the hardest hit areas. So right now we have about 16,000 resources coming to Florida. Most of those, of course, are line personnel, vegetation management crews, and also damage assessment. And then all kinds of other roles that people have to play, like working in emergency operating centers, both at the state and at the county level, so that we're literally right there with those other agencies that are trying to help our citizens make it through this event.
16,000.
Yeah.
That's a big number. Is that individuals? Is that crews? Is that trucks? Or yes, all
people.
Of the above?
It is. It's staging an army. Yeah. Because you have to ensure they're safe.
Is that what I see at Tropicana Field? Is that where some of your folks
Tropicana Field is usually a place that we stage.
So there's cots inside there. Like where crews, some power crews are going to be riding out the storm, I guess.
Well, typically at a place like Tropicana, where we're not going to stage because Tampa Bay seems to be a target for this, but we have these resources are going to places like the Villages. We can have up to 4,000 trucks there.
Keep them out of the immediate danger, but they can get right in afterwards.
Yes, because if we wait until after the storm passes to start moving people, it just adds to the restoration time. But we need to keep them safe. Usually then they're moved to hotels. In some parts of Florida, like North Florida, the Big Bend area that's seen 3 storms in 13 months, the accommodations are different there. So typically at base camps we have sleeping trailers, showers, because you have to feed these people. You've got to be able to wash their clothes. Of course, first and foremost, keep them safe. So we have nurses on hand as well. So it is. It becomes a city.
Sure. Listen, you take care of you and yours. Thank you for what you do. Keep your folks safe, and
thank you.
We know we'll be talking to you a lot on the back end.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes. Because that's it, Russell. All of these people, all of these first responders, all of these, the president of Duke Energy Florida, they're all Tampa Bay area residents. Like they're also worried about their own. So it's just a stressful time for everybody. But that's what's happening here. They're as prepared as they can be for an unprecedented event that's about to happen.
Remarkable to hear her talk about the city they have to build when something like this
happens. Infrastructure, right? The logistics that you don't think about. Like, well, come on, just get my power back on.
Right.
We're all going to be crying for that in a day or two. But what it takes to do that.
Yeah. Even have nurses on hand to help just remarkable.
It's also a very dangerous job.
Yeah, it sure
very
is.
Dangerous job that there'll be injuries.
Yeah.
There'll be linemen fall. There'll be cuts, scrapes, and hopefully nothing worse than that. So yeah, that's why they have to have that personnel with them.
Okay. Hey, talk to you later, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, much more to come in the next half hour, including an update from Pinellas County. A lot of people saw unparalleled storm surge from Helene, and unfortunately, they could be in for round 2. We'll also check in with Dave a few more times. He's coming up after the break. Val's here too.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Tuesday morning. For those of you evacuating evacuating and going south. And I know that some folks may be going to Fort Lauderdale or Miami to go the other way. There's some rain in your path. Just wanted to let you know. I know it was 75 south going around Alligator Alley. Let's put that up there for you on the map. You can see around Bonita Springs and Naples, some heavier rain this morning. It's just kind of riding off toward the east. Elsewhere, we're good. I just wanted to let you know if you're going north, you're fine, but south, you're going to run into a few of those showers. Now here, current satellite picture for Milton, and the eye wall structure, or the eye wall replacement cycle is just about complete now, and you're going to start to see the storm re-intensify, likely back into a Category 5 hurricane again at some point today. So don't be surprised if you hear that, or it comes over your phone or somebody tells you. This is anticipated. Now, once this eye wall replacement cycle is completely finished, and it looks like it's almost about done, then you'll start to see the storm strengthen slowly again, and perhaps getting back up again to that Category 5 status, what you're seeing there in the forecast. But then as it starts to make that turn to the northeast and it gets closer and closer to the west coast of Florida, sometime tomorrow it's going to encounter wind shear, and that wind shear is going to try to take that core apart. It's at least going to try to take the southern part of that storm apart, and that will not only stop it from strengthening, but it will begin the weakening process. At this point, it is still forecast to be a major hurricane at landfall in and around the Tampa area, 20-30 miles north, 20-30 miles south. There's your range. Okay, as a Category 3, 125-mile-per-hour storm. But look at the timing of this. This is not going to happen until after dark Wednesday, but more likely closer to midnight on Thursday morning when the storm actually makes it through. Then off the East Coast by Thursday afternoon at about 2 o'clock from there. In general, we are looking at an excessive amount of rainfall to north of where the storm makes its way on shore. So you could be looking at 10 to 15 inches of rain, or 8 to 14 inches of rain in our northern counties, more than our southern counties. So I want people to understand that while we are focusing on a landfall and you're trying to pinpoint where the highest storm surge is going to be, there's going to be a tremendous amount of rain associated with this system, something we didn't see with Helene. 5 to 10 inches in some spots, maybe some higher amounts to the north, to go along with those 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts we're going to have, especially along the coast. So I'm going to come back in a few minutes. Valerie's going to join me. We're going to break it down kind of county by county what we can expect. But I'm going to tell you nothing today, nothing tonight, with the exception of some rain bands, and then tomorrow morning as well should be okay. The weather will go downhill beginning tomorrow afternoon. So we'll be back with those fine-tuned details in just a few minutes.
Update out of Sarasota. County officials have expanded mandatory evacuation orders now to include Zone C.
Yeah, so that means people in zones A, B, C, and manufactured communities. Anyone living in a mobile home and a boat home, you should find a safe place to weather out this storm. All right, let's now talk about Pinellas County, because that was Sarasota. This is where Regina Gonzalez has been live for us all morning as hospitals are working to get patients out of harm's way. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, we just caught up with the CEO and president of Advent Health North Pinellas here in Tarpon Springs within the last hour, and he said that it has. And now, to put it into perspective, there are only 2 left who are going to be transferred later today. And they were able to partner with the county and have dozens of ambulances on site in order to do this. Now, they were taken no more than an hour away to other Advent Health sister locations like Dade City, Carrollwood, Zephyr Hills, and Wesley Chapel. He said the Tarpon Springs Hospital is elevated at about 21 feet, and they've never seen water come too close. But of course, they wanted to move patients out of an abundance of caution. The CEO, whose name is Ryan Quattlebaum, says throughout the process, his team was not only making sure that these patients were physically okay, but mentally as well.
We had chaplains that were actually rounding with the patients and with the team members and with their families. So having a chaplain connect with people in that way really made them feel at ease and made them feel comfortable through this trying time.
Now, Ryan said the emergency room at Advent Health North Pinellas will stay open as long as possible during Milton. They're going to monitor the situation accordingly. But in the worst case scenario, he advised people to first go to Advent Health Palm Harbor's ER, which they know will remain open throughout the storm. He assured that they have backup power sources to be able to keep things running as efficiently as possible. Now, you can actually go to adventhealth.com/hurricane to get active updates on all of the closings. They're also reiterating and stressing that hospitals are not public shelters. Do not come here to just hang out.
All right.
Send it back to you.
And Regina Gonzalez, live for us in Tarpon Springs. Gina, thank you.
9:37 right now, and during Helene, people in Hernando County suffered a lot of damage. Unprecedented storm surge destroyed at least 500 homes, and now they're bracing for round 2. And this time, it could be worse. Let's get over to the Director of Emergency Management for Hernando County. That's David DiCarlo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being with us, because I know you're busy there right now. What's the message this morning?
Well, the message this morning is be prepared and prepare to evacuate. We have shelters that are open, that opened up at 8 a.m. Our mandatory evacuations for everybody on west of US 19, and then those inland counties, manufactured home, low-lying areas, et cetera, to seek safe shelter. We have shelters open. They opened up at 8 a.m. We have 3 of them that are open throughout the county. So we're doing our best to help our citizens get to a safe refuge. Again, if they have another place to go to, that's great. A shelter should not be your first option, but we do have 3 shelters available and open because we know just the mass exodus from the south of us, people may need to seek shelter.
We've been talking to other emergency management people this morning. We've heard from the governor. The window is closing, but there still is time to prepare.
There is still time to prepare. So with the storm slowing down, it really gave us an extra 12 hours, right? So people still have time to prepare their homes today. Hernando County could expect tropical storm force winds anywhere between noon tomorrow and 4 p.m. So we're going to be shutting down probably around noon tomorrow when those tropical storm force winds start reaching Hernando County. So, but people still have all day today, tonight, and into tomorrow morning to prepare. We'll be running transportation services if they need public transportation to the shelters. That'll be running all day today and into all night and into early tomorrow morning. Our debris collection, we're still, collecting debris from Hurricane Helene. We've collected close to 19,000 cubic yards. We are going to be really, really close of collecting all the storm debris, hopefully by mid-morning tomorrow. But I want to manage people's expectations. There may be spots that we don't get to, and that debris could be, saturated or with surge or wind. So we understand it's a dangerous situation, but we're working really hard to pick up as much debris as we can.
All right, you got the last word. What's the last message?
Prepare. Take this storm seriously. Hernando County is looking at anywhere between 5 to 10 feet of storm surge. Please take it seriously. Keep yourself safe. Life safety is paramount, not only to our citizens, but our first responders and our linemen. So please prepare.
Okay. David DiCarlo, Hernando County Emergency Management. We'll be talking to you along the way. Thank you. Take care, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Sir.
Thank you.
All right, you can find more storm coverage right in the palm of your hand on our Fox Local mobile app. Has county-by-county updates, forecast videos from our weather team, and all of our live newscasts. It's free to download for iPhone and Android phones, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Welcome back. There are a lot of things to take care of before you evacuate or shelter in place.
From power to water and community, it's important you do everything you can to be prepared. And make certain you charge any device that provides light. Turn off your breaker box if you're in an evacuation zone or if your home floods. Fill empty bottles with water and freeze them. Fill every tub with water so you can flush your toilet. And remember to only flush when you really need to. And also, check in on your neighbors.
And before we get to the weather, we want to let you know that Sarasota County schools will also now be closed through Friday. So that makes Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Sarasota closed the rest of the week.
It makes sense. Just close them all. Let's just evaluate the situation come Friday, and then we'll go from there as well. We'll get into it. Val's here with me. We're going to talk about the very latest on the storm. And again, overnight, not much change. The storm did get a little bit weaker, which it was expected to do because of an eye wall replacement cycle. It may re-intensify today, but the overall thought, the steering mechanisms, and nothing has really changed all that much. I know what you wanted. You wanted to hear that there were big changes, but unfortunately not. Look at the hurricane warnings, not only for the west coast of our state, but the east coast of our state as well. So the hurricane warnings go literally right across I-4. They do. Orlando's under a hurricane warning. Lakeland's under a hurricane warning. The entire west coast under that hurricane warning as well. The big picture, there's the center, of course, of Milton. Overnight, that little pinhole eye collapsed. We've restructured the storm. That's a weakening process that brought the winds down to 145. And I say down to 145. Oh my goodness, that's still really, really intense. And there could be some re-strengthening before some of that wind shear starts to catch a hold of this storm at some point tomorrow. So there's your center of the storm. Look at some of these little spikes in and around the center. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to re-strengthen itself slowly now that that eye wall has been replaced. So it'll be interesting over the next 8 to 12 hours to see how much it does re-strengthen. The forecast is for it to become a Category 5 storm again, and then bite down, and then eventually as it makes landfall in around a Category 3 with winds of 125 miles per hour. Let me show you what the computer models, honestly, are even more condensed than the actual cone is, because the cone works off error in climatology. Watch these computer models as they are tightly condensed down into the central Florida area, but we can get even better than that, right? Because what we can do is we can take a line and run it across in what we call our consensus models, and that is where they're kind of rolling it through very close to the mouth of Tampa Bay and maybe down into parts of Anna Maria Island, and then working its way completely across the state. So for more on that and what that means for storm surge, let's bring Valerie in.
Yeah, David, as we're talking about really the landfall location being so important and where we're talking about the absolute worst of not only the wind, but particularly the storm surge, that's a concern for us. We talk about that kind of consensus that Dave was just showing that would potentially put that track just to the south of Tampa Bay. In that case, we have offshore winds here for a lot of our Bay Area spots. And so storm surge, much less of a concern compared to areas on the south side that would put really bad storm surge into areas around Fort Myers. But that track 10, 20 miles just more to the north, then we've got that onshore flow going directly into Tampa Bay, Hillsborough Bay, and you think of it just like a catcher's mitt. All of that water funnels into those Bay areas and it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it just kind of bubbles up and spills out over land. So that, unfortunately, would be worst case scenario for us, is if we are on the southern side of that with all of that storm surge rushing into Tampa Bay. But really, these storm surge numbers are really kind of catastrophic at this point up and down our coastal areas. Keep in mind, these are painting the worst case scenario, but these are the rise in waters on top of our normal tide. So at this point, we're keeping a close eye on the high and low tide cycles that are becoming kind of lining up with this late Wednesday, really early Thursday morning time frame on when we expect this to come on shore. But for parts of Pinellas, Hillsborough, down to Sarasota, Manatee counties, that's where at this point the highest storm surge forecast is for on the high side, up to 15 feet there. And you can kind of just see this paints the picture on how far inland some of our areas that will be impacted by the water here. So you can just kind of see on the impacts that we're expecting on where this water is going to be able to just kind of take over and spread into these areas down into Venice, Inglewood. That's where we kind of see that cutoff. We're still expecting 6 to 10 feet of surge for those areas. So overall, keeping a very close eye on this the next 12, 24 hours or so for any subtle changes to make a big difference. But for the day tomorrow, we start to see some of these rain bands moving through, and those just continue to pick up in intensity, especially through the second half of the day on Thursday. There's a quick look at our impacts county by county, up to 100-mile-per-hour winds right across the Bay Area. Rainfall 8 to 12 inches there. Rainfall up to to possibly 15 feet on the north side of that storm. That's likely where we are going to get the worst of the rain with this, but still 70, 80 mile per hour gusts inland. And for our southern spots, Sarasota, Manatee counties still in that threshold, 100 mile per hour winds, and really life-threatening storm surge to be a possibility. Jen?
All right, we are going to take a short break from our storm coverage for a first birthday shout out. This is what we need. Atreus gets the spotlight all to himself this morning. He loves playing peekaboo, watching Ms. Rachel, and throwing his ball. Happy first birthday, Atreus. And if you want to see your little one on TV, send us a picture along with their name, the date of their first birthday, and tell us a little bit about them. Email it to WTVT@firstbirthdays@fox.com. Now, keep in mind, we are in storm mode now. It's going to be a few days before we get to all of the shout outs. We'll get them on as soon as we can. Stay with us. More Good Day Tampa Bay coming up after the break.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Welcome back. We're about to wrap it up here on Good Day, but we got a little tech advice for you now for families. There's a relatively new feature on your phone that could be a lifeline.
And it helped a lot of people during Hurricane Helene. It's called satellite messaging. Now, you may not even know you have it, but it was part of Apple's recent phone update. It allows users who are without data or Wi-Fi to connect to an emergency service provider via satellite. This means even without cellular or wireless service, you can still get in touch with your contacts. In order for it to work, you need an iPhone 14 or later, and you need to have done the iOS 18 update. Now, if you lose coverage, you'll get a prompt to connect to the nearest satellite. iMessage also needs to be turned on. iMessage needs to be turned on, and you need to be outside with a clear view of the sky and the horizon. For Android users, there is a similar feature, but it's only available on the Google Pixel 9, and you'll need to set Google Messages as your default app. Carriers like Verizon are also teaming up with satellite providers to offer this feature. You'll need to contact your carrier to learn more.
And we want to remind you that if you do lose power during the storm, which is a near certainty, several local radio stations are carrying our newscast too. You can listen to our hurricane coverage on 102.5 The Bone, 97X, and 101.5 The Vibe.
Be right back.
You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Finally this hour, we wanted to see how our friends down in the south are weathering the hurricane this season. Take a live look at the Eagle Nest in North Fort Myers.
Yep.
Nobody's home now.
They evacuated. They're in Zone A. They know.
They're taking northbound I-75 right now.
We did record some action earlier. Last year's baby flew the nest months ago, but according to the Eagle watchers who are monitoring these cameras, M15 and F-23 are looking to the next generation of eaglets. They've been busy sprucing up the nest and staying busy in other ways. We'll see the fruits of their labors between late winter and early spring.
We'll be safe M15 and F-23.
Yeah. We got to get better names for them, though.
Always.
M15, F-23. Okay, let's take a look at Milton again. And then keep in mind as the 11 o'clock advisory will come in soon, about 10:45 or so, with the wind speed and the pressure and the track change. And it's not going to be a huge change in the track. Honestly, from here on out, the computer models are locked into Central Florida. This will make a landfall as a major hurricane and a Category 3 storm at that. But the timing has been kind of pushed back a little bit. So instead of during the daylight hours on Wednesday, it's going to be Wednesday night and then very early on Thursday morning, landfall. So, of course, the impacts will be significant around our area, especially where it makes landfall. And we'll keep you updated.
Don't forget, you can always find the latest at fox13news.com. We've got complete coverage there, county by county, too. And you can also watch us on the Fox Local app. Don't forget, that's easy to download.
And remember, Fox 13 continues our complete storm coverage on Hurricane Milton whenever you're away from your TV. Any updates on evacuations, close your sandbag sites, the storms, the latest track will always be there. It's at fox13news.com.
And then, of course, we've got the White House. President Biden is expected to speak this morning at 10:15. So we will wait and hear what he has to say, but we will cover that live.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're ready?
We got another day. We got another day.
We got another
day to prepare and plan and get to where you need to get, but be where you want to be by tomorrow morning.
Plenty of time.
Okay.
All right.
Stay safe, everybody.
Take care, everybody. We love you.
We mean it.